Welcome back, guys. As you saw in our last video, we painted the fenders, but we got issues. Part of our issues are the color doesn't match. So we painted these fenders and we had issues with the paint to start with. Our first two cans came out with the paint just wasn't covering. It was like a watered down tinted clear almost. It wasn't that good. So we went back, we got two new cans, they gave it to us, we painted these up, we put them on the car, now they don't match. Color's off, it's way darker. I'll insert a picture here. Of where the color and everything looks different, but we're gonna do something we've been wanting to do, but we didn't think we were gonna have time, but now we're gonna have to squeeze it in a week. Let's see if we can do it. We are going to carbon fiber overlay these fenders. As we've been doing with all this other carbon fiber stuff, we've been overlaying it. My one goal was to actually make replacement fenders that would pop off and be able to put them on the car, but right now we do not have the luxury of making molds in that kind of time frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to overlay these as thin as possible, but we're going to overlay them with our rolls of carbon fiber. So let's get to it. We have the fenders laid up. We've wet sanded all the fenders down so it's got enough grit and bite into it so we can put our carbon fiber on top. One thing we do need to do now is what we're going to do is we're going to paint all the edges, main edges, black, so that when we are wrapping the carbon fiber and we're going around the corners, the red isn't showing through. This way the carbon fiber makes full coverage and looks good. So let's get to it, start painting the edges. So we have all our major edges painted black right now. We're gonna let that dry. Why we do that, we're gonna measure out our carbon fiber that's gonna lay on top of each panel. The first ones are gonna be easy, which are the fronts. The rears are gonna be a little bit harder. Well, really, this one's not that hard. This one's gonna be hard because of the gas fill. And we're gonna want the gas fill to actually look like inside carbon fiber. Most people would cut that opening and just paint it black on the inside, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna actually stretch the carbon fiber inside, so we'll cut it, stretch it in, do all that. But while we let the paint dry, we're gonna cut our carbon fiber, get them in the sizes that we need so that when we're ready, we can just lay our adhesive, then we'll lay the carbon fiber piece on top, we'll tuck it around, work it around all the corners, we'll tape it to the back side, just like we've been doing with all our other carbon fiber. It's the same process, guys, just on a lot larger scale. So, what we've done is we've cut our carbon fiber, and as you can see, we've tested it over to make sure that it's enough and that it all looks good. So what we're gonna do now, after this paint dries, we are going to do a spray adhesive on top of the whole panel. And once the spray adhesive is tacky, we'll spray the spray adhesive on both sides. And what we'll do is we'll lay it and we'll roll it on and we'll smooth it and we'll cut and we'll do all of our shaping of getting it onto the panel and around the panel, and we'll do that to all the panels. And then once we have that done, then we can start resining. So what we're gonna do is lay out all these, make sure they all fit, and then we're gonna bust out our spray adhesive. So now that our paint is dry on all our corners, we're gonna be using 3M Super 90 adhesive. So what this is gonna do is we're gonna spray the entire panel, everywhere, all down. Then we're gonna take our piece, lay it out, we're gonna spray the back side. So when we put these two together, they're gonna bond permanently. So the carbon fibers are not gonna come off this panel for anything. You'd have to destroy the carbon fiber to get it off the panel. So once we lay it down, it's gotta be perfect because it's not going anywhere. Once that dries and we wrap it around, then we can bust out our resin and put our first coat over all the panels. So you let that sit up for a little bit, guys. And once it does, it starts becoming hard. And what we're going to do is we are going to work this over the panel, starting at the very end here. We're going to get right at the end. Perfect. And what we're going to do is we are going to work it down the panel. As you can see, I have it on my head because it makes it easier to apply. But for some reason the camera died, guys. I don't know, died, the SD card, something was amiss with it. But as you can see, we have our two panels. Our two larger back panels are initially wrapped. So that is, we sprayed the Super 90 on the panel, and then we lay the carbon fiber on top, and we work it into all the corners and curves and everything, and then we flip it over, we cut it, and we wrap it around, we tape it, we strap it, we do everything on the back side, so that once we lay resin, it just nicely lays over everything. We have the front two panels left, so you'll actually get to see me wrap these two versus wrapping the big ones, which were a little bit harder, but same process, just a little bit smaller. So we'll get these going. Let's get these wrapped so I can get some resin on them. Okay, so we started wrapping all our carbon around our edges so that when we actually resin this, it'll actually look like a full-on carbon fiber piece. We won't have edges that are different colors. So what we're doing is slowly working our way around each compound curve, and as we're working it around, we're pulling it up and we are pushing it down onto our panel and working it, make sure there's no bubbles, make sure there's no flared edges, and then we'll cut all the excess off of this as we work it around. So, you know, carbon fiber is flexible, so we can pull it around all of these corners and pull it down so that it will stick. And what we do is we work out any bubbles or any kinks that we have along the way. Then we'll cut all this excess off as we go. Usually around your radiuses, you need to cut in a radiant pattern so that the carbon fiber has a little bit of give to it, so that you can wrap it up and around and make that curve. And we don't need much on this one to get that curve going. We'll let that set up for a second, we'll wrap it around, then we'll cut all this excess, tape it all, then we'll jump to the other panel, then we're going to be done with the initial wrapping, and we can actually get to resining. We have all our panels covered in carbon fiber. We are mixing up our resin. Right now, we're going to do our first coat of resin on every single panel and get it laid down for our first coat so we can let it dry and we can move forward.
And why are
started laying our first coat of resin. As you can see, it's a light coat over everything, We're gonna let this harden up and set off and pop off. Once it's done, then we're gonna light sand it, just real light, and then hit it with a second coat and a third coat, sanding in between each coat. So I'll see you in a little bit. For you, it's a instant. For me, it is after this dries. So our resin is cured. Ta-da! As you can see, this fender right here, we started sanding, and we need to sand this one, and that one tonight. So what we're starting with is, I usually start with 80 on a block, and sand it so that it gets all the high spots. You knock them down real quick, and then you work your way up to, we do 80, we do 120, then we do 400, sorry, not 40, 400, and then I hit it with wet sand with 800 before we lay the next coat of resin. So what we're gonna do tonight is get these all sanded down and get them wet sanded to 800, which is gonna take a little bit of time. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let them dry, and we're going to do hopefully the third coat, last coat of resin, once these are all smooth, tomorrow. Let that cure. Once that's done, then we will wet sand all of them, and then we'll just clear coat them, and then they're gonna be done. Well, we gotta drill holes and stuff for just drill it from the backside for the holes. But we'll do that, and the fenders will basically be done being wrapped. So fairly simple-ish process, but let's get to finish sanding all of these so that we can take the next step. One rear fender sanded. We have the other rear fender starting to be sanded. As you can see, we do have some low spots where the resin didn't fully penetrate it, kind of away from the panel, but this gets a second coat, a third coat anyways. But we're actually hand sanding, and it takes forever to do it hand wise on your initial ones. Your final ones, like our second coat, on our second, like our final coat, we'll hand sand because it's already super fine. And Sammy's got my rotary sander, so that would make quick work of this. Literally like not even 10 minutes a panel. But I think I'm gonna be done. Sammy's supposed to drop off my sander tomorrow, so if we can get that sander tomorrow, we can knock these out. Because I'm not gonna be able to resin coat tonight anyways, because it is raining and the moisture in the air is way too high to actually lay resin outside. So we weren't gonna be able to lay resin tonight anyways. We're gonna have to lay it tomorrow if the weather's better. But I did want to get everything sanded, but this is taking forever. So we're gonna wait for Sammy to drop off the sander tomorrow, and we're gonna finish these panels up. Because what we gotta do is they don't have to be perfect. Like that one, it looks good, but it's still got some ripples in it and stuff like that. I got some low spots and stuff like that, but all that will be covered in the next coat of resin, and that coat will be the coat that we lay on pretty thick, and that allows us to block sand it down pretty smooth with not even like 800 grit, 1000 grit, 2000 grit, and then it's gonna be butter smooth, and then all we have to do is clear coat it. Hopefully we're gonna be able to clear coat this weekend, Saturday maybe, possibly, and get these panels back on the car on Sunday and get ready for the show. Not this coming weekend, but the next weekend. So we gotta get these panels done so we can get them on the car. So our last sanding did not go as planned. As you can see, we have our front fenders, and as you can see, they are wet right now. So what happened on our front fenders, and I didn't film any of this because I was in just rush mode, but the front fenders had a lot of flaws in the actual carbon fiber, and it was the way I laid the carbon fiber down. With the glue that I used, and being that it was so cold, so right now we're in the 70s, we're 74 right now, which is perfect temperature. Well, anything from 74 up is perfect temperature for resin. But we were down in the mid 30s when I was out here sanding a lot of this stuff up, and what we ran into was a lot of imperfections in the front fenders, like a ton, like not even acceptable at all. So what we did was we sanded the fenders down. We left what was there, the carbon fiber that was on there, because it's on there. And what we did was we sanded it completely smooth, and we relayed a whole nother layer of carbon fiber on top of that layer underneath. So now the front fenders have 2 layers. The back fenders only have 1, but we have to finish sanding the back fenders because we had some low spots and stuff. So while we were sanding, we found some low spots, and instead of sanding those down to where we get really close to the weave again, we put on more resin so it builds up those low spots, and then we'll sand those, block sand those down. So that is what we're up on next, but I got some stuff to show you. So rear bumper is together, and on our new little, oh god, I'm about to fall. Our new little carbon fiber surround around the exhaust is on, and if you have not seen my Instagram post, I'm trying to get you some light, the center console is complete. The RTD shifter's on, the new shifter boot, the whole carbon fiber surround, and the gauge cluster. We also did the little carbon fiber surround around the the steering wheel. But it looks absolutely fantastic. Go to my IG, check out the final product pictures and stuff, but it looks fantastic. If anybody wants one, I actually have 4 that I'm going to be making here shortly. Well, after WeekFest. Going to be making about, well, I have 4 right now. 2 coupes, and 1 sedan, and 1 convertible. So it's got the button for the convertible button and stuff. But I can do it any way. You can have no buttons, you can have all the buttons, you can have whatever you want. Just when I'm making them, just you have to let me know. But we have a couple things we got to do today. Why that is setting up, and before I sand this, because that stuff's just a little tacky, so we got to let that set up today. But why we're doing that, front bumpers together, lip is on, bumpers painted. We are working on our, so I don't know if I showed you guys this. So these are little carbon fiber inserts that I made. So that one sits in there, and I have a bracket made for that. And this one, we're in the process of clear coating and sanding and everything. And then this one goes on this side, and it fits in there for the intake side. I mean, that's for the intake side, that's for the oil cooler side. And then we have these little rings that go in. It's going to be a nice little thingamabobber. But we also got to finish the old diffuser that we made a long time ago, the carbon fiber diffuser, and get that mounted. But we are getting to the very end, guys. We are almost there and almost ready for WeekFest. Only got a few things left to do here, but I'm gonna jump in here and do a little bit of work real quick, so I can knock it out. Then we'll come back, and we'll most likely, when I come back, it'll be those fenders, because these are gonna dry here, and I'm gonna move them out when the sun comes out. We're gonna move them out there, and then we'll be able to sand right here and do what we gotta do without messing stuff up. So, see you in a minute. So we are getting closer and closer. That panel, the rear panel, is sanded all the way to 220. We are at 80 starting right now on this panel. As you can see, there's some little, like up in here along the ridge, some little fish eyes there, but the panel is mainly flat. We're gonna hit it with 120, 220, and then we'll come back and we'll hit that one with 400. Well, both of them with 400, and then we'll jump up to 800 when we start wet sanding and really getting these babies smooth and ready for clear. Then we can just set these off to the side for a little bit, let them dry all the way through, and then these panels will be semi-dry by, I put them up this morning and the temperature is still kind of high, so they should be ready to be sanded tomorrow after work. And as soon as those are sanded, like these are sanded, then we can clear coat and then we can install. That's it. That's literally all we have to do for the panels. Diffusers back there. I found all the hardware for it. So just a matter of bolting that thing up and that'll be done. And then we of course also have our pieces over there, which we're starting to make bracketry for so it can hold on to, but I need to find some black hardware so it blends in and doesn't look all awkward up there. And then we just put that on and pretty much done. Except for some wiring I gotta do on the inside on the switch panel. I gotta swap some wiring around and stuff, but that's fairly easy. And then we can put the car down, we can pull it out, and then we can wash the damn thing. So it definitely needs to be washed. But let's get these panels sanded so that we can get everything ready. So it's getting dark, but our panels are almost dry. We can touch them. They are just finishing up all their stuff on the panels. And we have our back panels actually all sanded and ready to go for clear. As you can see, I've decided to do a red pinstripe all the way down, which will tie the front and the rear together and kind of give the different look and keep that body line going through the car. So that's what we're doing here. We have a couple little spots that we need to fill on the ridge, but as soon as those dry, we'll tape off the rest and we will paint it just like we painted that with the pinstripe, and then it'll be ready for clear. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually set those off to the side, and we're going to finish the front panels. About to go to dinner, but we're going to finish these front panels tomorrow, and as soon as we do and get them sanded smooth just like we did these, we're going to clear all of it all together, all at once, because we have one can, so we got to clear the whole thing one time. So that's the plan. So let's let this dry and I'll be right one step closer. So as you see, we have our front panels. They've been sanded. Rear panels sanded. They all have their little bit of red pinstriping, as you see, matches the car. Kind of a plate. We'll see how it actually looks. Who knows what it looks. I haven't even test fitted them. Doesn't even matter. They are all ready for clear coat. They've all been drilled for the holes that are currently on the body, and we are finishing up painting the gas door, and we'll be ready to install. Things that we have left: clear coat the panels, let them set up. Hopefully we're going to paint those tomorrow. We are working on our brake duct deletes. The only other thing we have to do is install the diffuser, couple bolts there, and then finish up the little bit of wiring on the inside. Put the other wheel on that door, on that front. And then clean up the engine bay, which I think it's just the cowl and a couple of little things are not bolted down, which they need to do. But I'm gonna go and try to throw this diffuser on real quick and get it all going so it'll be on and done. Well, that was quick. Diffuser's mounted. It was like 7 bolts. I need to get one more. There's one on this side that I need to put on, but that's done. The wheel's on. It's raining. And then all we have to do now is clear coat tomorrow and finish painting up the gas door little area. Mount those 2 pieces, and the bumper's ready to go on. Wheels on, diffuser's on, just the body panels. And then we can put those on. We can actually put those on like Thursday night. We're gonna wait as long as possible on that. And then just need to finish up some wiring. And then we'll jump to the engine bay. Tomorrow, while we're messing with the panels, once we clear them, we'll put them on. I need to get some, that's what I need to get. Double-sided tape. For this. That's my dash piece. I need to get double-sided tape for that so I can put that on. And then interior is done. We're close, guys. Real close. Super close. So, a little change of plans, guys. We were gonna clear coat the fenders. If you can even see me, I think it's too dark. We were gonna clear coat the fenders in the backyard, but my dad has a neighbor who has moved out, and there is a empty garage that we can set up in, and we're gonna be able to paint inside the garage tonight. So we're out of the weather, out of the cold. It's gonna be actually really good. So let's get over there and let's get set up. So we are set up in the garage and we are ready to spray. So we have everything wiped down right now with denatured alcohol so that it takes all the wax and grease off. We are gonna let these air out, so they're gonna fully air out. We're gonna heat the can of paint so it's nice and warm, and then we are going to start our first coat of clear over everything. And once that is done, then we'll come back with coat 2. So let's let this air out, and then we will be right back. So guys, we have our first coat of clear down, just your light tack coat. As you can see, it looks super glossy, especially with the cool pinstripe and everything. You see it's actually looks super glossy, but it's our first tack coat. Same with the rear. We're gonna let this sit up for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, and then we are going to hit it with the second coat of clear, which is gonna be super heavy. Well, not super heavy, but heavier than the first coat. And then we're gonna let that tack up, and then we're gonna see how much paint we actually have left. And I really would like to do a third coat, but I don't know if we have enough paint in that can. Should have probably bought 2 cans of clear, but if we need 2 cans of clear, I can go pick up another one tomorrow, and then we can spray this tomorrow night after all this clear, like, hardens, and we can spray it again. But right now, we're gonna let this sit up, and then we'll see what it looks like in a minute. Guys, the rear panels have 2 coats on, really nice and thick. The front panels have 1.5. So as I thought, I wasn't gonna have enough for the front panels, so I am slightly screwed. So what we're gonna have to do is tomorrow we're gonna have to run down and go get another can. So we're gonna have to let this set up, let this harden, and then we'll come back and spray the front panels with a whole nother coat of clear coat, so that those will have the same amount of clear coat as the rear panels. Just slightly sucks because I should have picked up 2, but I thought it was gonna be enough, but I was wrong. Happens. Just gonna have to be what it is. But I'm gonna show you. It looks fantastic though. The color, the everything looks absolutely amazing on it. So I'm happy with how it's coming out, but we just need a little bit more clear, so it is what it is. But that is it for this video, guys. The next video you will see will be the fenders on the car being loaded for Week Fest. So we are gonna do a video on our way to Week Fest, and then there'll be a video for Week Fest itself. So stay tuned, guys. This came out amazing. Like, comment, and subscribe.